Listen, man, I know where you are right now. When someone you thought would be in your life forever walks away, it feels like your whole world caves in. Nights feel longer. Food doesn't taste the same. Even little routines feel empty without them. And the worst part? Your mind keeps running in circles. Should I call her? Should I explain myself? Should I fight for this? I've been there. And I'll tell you this straight. Chasing, begging, or trying to convince her never works. It only makes her respect you less, and it keeps you stuck. But there's a different path. A path that not only helps you heal faster, but also makes her question if walking away was the right move. Today, I want to share with you 9 truths about what happens when you stay silent and choose yourself after heartbreak. These aren't theories. These are things I've seen play out in real life, with myself and with guys I know. So grab your seat, brother. This is going to change how you handle the storm you're in. Point 1, don't react, redirect. Listen, man, I know what the first instinct after heartbreak feels like. You want to react. You want to grab your phone, call her, text her, pour your heart out, maybe even demand answers she's not ready to give. But here's the truth. Reaction is weakness. Because every time you react, you keep the spotlight on her. You hand her the control. What you need to do is something most guys don't even consider. Redirect. Take all that energy you'd waste convincing her to stay and flip it into fuel for yourself. Go hit the gym. Pick up that book you've been putting off. Enroll in that class. Start the side project you've been talking about but never started. Don't feed her your energy. Invest it back into you. I'll give you an example. I had a buddy who got dumped hard. Man was crushed. But instead of sending her long messages, instead of begging her to understand, he signed up for a martial arts class that very week. And let me tell you, 3 months later, he didn't just look different. He was different. Stronger, calmer, more focused. His energy had shifted. And guess what? Out of nowhere, she texted him. Not because he begged, not because he chased, but because his silence and self-growth spoke louder than anything he could have said. That's the lesson, brother. Don't react. Redirect. Because when you build yourself, you stop asking for her validation. And that's when you start to win. Point 2. Mystery makes her mind spiral. Brother, let me tell you something about silence. It's not just quiet. It's mystery. And people hate mystery, especially when it comes to someone they thought they understood. When you go silent, she's not sitting there cool and collected, sipping coffee like nothing happened. Her mind is racing. Why isn't he reaching out? Did he move on already? Is there someone else? Was I not enough? Here's the thing. Silence isn't emptiness. It's a mirror. And the moment you remove yourself, she's forced to stare into it and face her own choices. It's uncomfortable, and that discomfort makes her mind spiral faster than anything you could ever text her. I always compare it to a TV series. You ever binge watch a show and then out of nowhere, the season just ends mid-storyline? No explanation. No updates. Nothing. What happens? You obsess. You refresh the page. You search for leaks. You wonder what's happening behind the scenes. That suspense keeps you hooked more than the episodes themselves. That's exactly what happens when you step back from her world. Your absence becomes a cliffhanger she didn't see coming. And the longer you hold it, the more she thinks about you. Not because you chased, but because you didn't. Point 3. Pain is fuel if you use it right. Listen, brother, don't run from the pain. I know it feels heavy, like your chest is caving in at night, but that ache? That's energy. The problem is most men waste it. They drown in alcohol, binge on junk food, scroll endlessly through social media, or worse, they text their ex hoping for closure that never comes. That's not healing. That's numbing. But the strongest men, they alchemize that pain. They turn it into fuel. When your body feels restless, hit the gym harder than ever before. When your mind won't stop racing, channel it into your work, your studies, your craft. Don't let that energy spill out in weakness. Direct it toward your mission. Think of heartbreak like fire. If you leave it wild, it burns everything down. It consumes you. But if you put that fire inside a forge, it creates steel. That's what pain can do. If you let it, it can sharpen you, harden you, make you stronger than you ever thought you could be. I've seen it with my own eyes. A friend of mine got blindsided by a breakup. He was shattered. But instead of chasing her, he chased the man he wanted to be. 6 months later, he didn't just look unrecognizable. He carried himself differently. The fire that once burned him down was the same fire that rebuilt him. That's the choice you have right now. Let the pain consume you, or use it to forge the strongest version of yourself. Point 4. Break the pattern, break the power. Every relationship runs on patterns. Man, think about it. Maybe you were always the one texting first thing in the morning, or you were always the first to say sorry just to keep the peace. Over time, she started relying on that. It gave her comfort. It gave her control. She knew exactly how you'd respond, no matter what. But here's the thing. When you break that pattern, you break her power. The first morning she doesn't wake up to your text, she notices. The first time she throws you a cold reply, and you don't chase it down with more effort, it rattles her. Because suddenly, you're not predictable anymore. And when you're not predictable, she's not in control. I'll tell you about a buddy of mine who was always the fixer. Anytime she got upset, even over small things, he'd call immediately. He'd smooth it over, reassure her, and basically reset the relationship single-handedly. She depended on that. But then one day, he didn't. He let her sit in her silence. He stayed calm, didn't cave, didn't fold. And guess who broke first? She did, because the second the pattern cracked. So, did her grip on him? That's the beauty of breaking the script. When you stop playing the role she expects, she has to rewrite the story. And in that moment, the balance shifts back to you. Point 5. Upgrade your environment. Listen, after heartbreak, where you spend your time matters more than you think. If your room, your car, your playlists, everything still screams her name, then you're living inside a memory museum. And every time you step in, you're replaying the past instead of moving forward. Man, I'll be real with you. One of the fastest shifts I ever made after a breakup wasn't a new routine or some deep philosophy. It was repainting my room. Sounds small, but it was powerful. I took down the photos, boxed up the old gifts, and even moved my bed to a different corner. The next morning when I walked in, it didn't feel like her space anymore. It felt like mine. That one change gave me the reset my mind was begging for. Here's the truth. Your environment feeds your emotions. If you keep staring at the reminders of her, you're pouring salt into the wound every single day. But when you refresh your space, clean it, rearrange it, upgrade it, you send yourself a message. This chapter is mine now. Healing isn't always about big dramatic moves. Sometimes, it's as simple as changing what you see when you wake up in the morning. Point 6. Watch her actions, not her show. After a breakup, man, you'll notice something strange. She'll suddenly turn her life into a stage. Smiling selfies, party nights, quotes about moving on, whole captions about how she's living her best life. But here's the truth. Genuine happiness doesn't need an audience. When someone's really at peace, they don't perform it, they live it. I'll give you an example. A buddy of mine went through a breakup and swore his ex was thriving. Her Instagram looked like a movie trailer. Vacations, drinks, laughter everywhere. But one night, he told me, "Bro, she's still watching all my stories. Every single one." And that's when it clicked. The glow online was a mask. Behind the show, she was still plugged in, still paying attention. That's why silence is so powerful. When you step back, you see the cracks in performance. You stop falling for the highlight reel and start paying attention to the real signals. Not the loud captions, not the stage pictures, but the small, consistent behaviors. Because actions whisper the truth long after the show ends. So don't chase the illusion of what she posts. Trust the reality of what she does. Point 7. Build a new rhythm without her. One of the hardest parts of a breakup isn't just losing the person. It's losing the rhythm. You get so used to the routines. The good morning texts, the late night calls, the weekend plans that gave structure to your time. When that disappears, it feels like silence's teeth. Every empty space becomes a reminder of what you lost. But here's the truth, brother. You don't beat that emptiness by staring at it. You beat it by replacing it. Fill those spaces with new rhythms. Instead of sending that good morning text, open a journal and write your thoughts. Instead of planning a weekend around her, sign up for a class, pick up a new hobby, or hit the gym at a time you never used to. Instead of late night scrolling through old pictures, put on a podcast that stretches your mind or a book that builds your perspective. I remember a guy who used to call his girlfriend every night before bed after the breakup. The silence crushed him, but instead of folding, he started using that same time to meditate and plan his next day. Within weeks, what used to feel like loss turned into power. That's the secret. The faster you build a rhythm that belongs only to you, the less power those old routines have over you. Because life doesn't stop when someone leaves. It resets, and you get to decide the new beat. Point 8. Respect attracts more than revenge. I get it, man. After heartbreak, the first impulse a lot of guys have is to get even. Post a picture with some random girl. Throw shade on social media. Maybe even drop a subtle jab you know she'll see. It feels like power in the moment, but it's not. That's not strength. That's still reaction. Real strength? It's in quiet respect. For yourself, for your growth, even for the story that ended. You don't need to announce that you've leveled up. You don't need to shove your progress in her face. When you carry yourself with calm dignity, people notice. And trust me, word travels. Mutual friends mention how focused you've been, how you're not spiraling, how you're moving forward. And that, brother, makes her stop and think. I knew a guy who did this perfectly. He didn't post bitter memes or try to make her jealous. He just stayed silent, hit the gym, built his career. 3 months later, she heard from friends how much he'd changed. And guess what? She reached out. Not because he played games, but because his respect for himself shined brighter than any revenge post could. Here's the truth. Bitterness makes you look stuck. Respect makes you look untouchable. And untouchable is what truly makes her rethink her choices. Point 9. Choose peace over closure. Brother, this one stings the most because I know you felt it. That urge to just hear her out. To sit across the table and say, why? Why did you do it? Why wasn't I enough? You think if she gives you answers, it'll ease the ache in your chest. But here's the harsh truth. Closure is a trap. Most of the time, you don't get peace from that conversation. You just get recycled pain. She says something half-hearted, vague, or defensive. Maybe she even blames you. And instead of clarity, you walk away with more questions, more anger, more late nights replaying her words in your head. I watched a friend fall into this exact loop. He begged for that one last talk. She met him for coffee, gave him a few lines about timing and needing space, and left. He told me afterward, "Man, I feel worse than before." And that's when it hit me. Closure rarely closes anything. It cracks the wound open again. Real closure? It doesn't come from her mouth. It comes from your decision. The day you say, I didn't get the ending I wanted, but I'll write my own new beginning, that's the day you win. That's the day you stop waiting for her words to heal you and start building a life where her silence doesn't matter. Peace is worth more than closure every single time. So here's the bottom line, my friend. Heartbreak can either break you or build you. Most men let it break them. They chase, they beg, they drown in bitterness. But the few who take the silence, the pain, the space, and use it, those men walk out stronger, calmer, and untouchable. Don't waste your energy proving your worth to someone who couldn't see it. Invest that energy into becoming the kind of man who doesn't need validation to know his value. Because here's the truth. The right woman won't make you question if you're enough. She'll recognize it without you having to prove a thing. So take this heartbreak, brother, and let it shape you. Not into someone colder, but into someone stronger, someone freer, someone at peace. And when she wonders what happened to a man she once knew, she'll realize too late. He didn't just move on, he leveled up,